Was camping in the Rockies in mid-October a while back, and the first time I was actually scared out of my mind. Decide to go camp overnight. Drive up mountain. After setting up camp, I go exploring. Close to dusk when I left, now pretty dark. No flashlight cause clear night with moon. After a while I stop where I am and start to head back to camp cause getting hard to see in the thick trees. Suddenly complete silence. That silence that feels like the air is solid. No insects, no outdoor sounds, no leaves, nothing. Every hair on my body is standing up. Stop dead in tracks. Absolute quiet. Stuffy, suffocating quiet. I see the leaves rustle on the ground, but don't hear it. Suddenly I smell it. Like gallons of blood mixed with coins that have been in your hand for a long time. Taste it in my mouth, metallic rusty taste. It's so strong. My goosebumps have goosebumps. I'm as tense as I've ever been. Deep, instinctual fear, like nothing I've ever felt goes down my spine. Know something is watching me. Something big and powerful. Stay still for hours, it seems like, all the while knowing it's sizing me up, knows I'm there. Take rifle off my back. I always have a gun with me when I'm outdoors. Have rifle low ready. Suddenly big snap behind me to the left. Fire twice at the spot where I heard it. Hear angry growl in the trees about 35 yards away from me. Can tell whatever it is it's big. I know what bears and cougars sound like and the feel when they are hunting you. This is totally different. Book it back to my camp where my truck is. Hear it following me. Run, run, run. I'm dying, trying not to crash into anything in the dark. Luckily the moon's out. After running, stumbling forever, I'm back at my truck. Leave tent and supplies. Drive off the mountain that night. Go back the next afternoon. Tent is rags. Food, supplies have been ransacked. Latches are open on containers. It wasn't an animal that did that. It had hands.
A race a personal one I posted in a different thread. Be Innawoods with 6 friends. Exploring the 300 acres of my friend's grandparents' property. There is a ravine and a cave system. Friend and I decide to check it out. Friend has FAL and I have my PTR. Get maybe 50 yards in the cave and start hearing shit. Like a weird moan/growling, it's hard to describe. Quietly start shitting pants. Press on. Make it 25 more yards. Hear what sounds like heavy bare feet slapping on stone. We freeze. Something big is coming at us. Light fucking does. Friend doesn't have one. Can make out a silhouette, a big one. Shitting pants even harder now. Heart pounding. Start shooting in the direction of it. Friend joins in. Stop shooting to assess the situation. Pained howl/screaming. It starts coming closer and at a faster pace. Start scrambling out of cave. Firing and running. Get out of cave and jump on quad. Nope, all the way back to camp. Tell everyone else, no one believed us. That night we heard a loud screaming howl. Finally believe us. Everyone on high alert all night, sleep in shifts. Friend wakes everyone up, said he heard something in the trees. Something big. Everyone up the rest of the night. Howling screams throughout the night. Sometimes maybe 20 yards from camp. Next morning cave friend and I go up to his grandparents' house at the other end of the property. Tell his FUD grandpa what happened. He doesn't say anything and just hands us a box. It's full of dynamite. He nods and we what hard. Ask what he wants us to do. Blow it the fuck up, you retards. Seriously. Nods again. We head back to camp. Tell friends the plan. No one likes it. But we gotta do it. Head to cave entrance. Shitla set up dynamite at all 3 of the entrees. Start hearing the moaning/growling. Friend and I repeat the events of yesterday. Trying to get it close to the entrance. Had friend outside light the fuse 5 minutes after entering the cave. 10-minute fuse time. See it and immediately start shooting. And running from it. Stopping every 20 yards to shoot back at it. It's howling loud enough to hurt my ears through ear pro. Managed to get out of cave in time. Big fucking bang, cave entrances collapsed. Get hit in the back of the head with a flying rock and knocked unconscious. Wake up 20 minutes later back at camp. Go to ER 2 hours away to get checked out. Just a slight concussion. Dr. Ask what happened. I fell. Go back to campsite after I'm discharged. Spend the next few days in peace. Grandpa wouldn't tell was anything about it. He died last year and took it to his grave. Friend's grandmother disappeared 15 years ago in the woods up there. Be me 8 years ago. Family, dad, buys into a hunting farm up north. Nice place, probably 400 acres altogether, and then opens up into a national forest. Easy to get lost in if you stray too far from the main trail. Lots of springs with the best water you've ever tasted. Anyway, I, being a young lad of 15 at the time, had ventured off to find one of these springs. Friends and I had an interest in setting up a still to make moonshine. We were 15, booze was hard to come by at the time. How we were supposed to do this was beyond me, but we knew we needed cold water. So I was out looking for a steady water source. I spent a lot of time going deep into the property looking for a good out of the way one a hunter would be less likely to stumble upon. Find one, good clear tasting water and up next to a cliff-like face. Difficult to see from above or below. Spend the next couple of hours cleaning leaves away, making a nice little fireplace ECT. Watch the sunlight dip down. No problem, I took the ATV out, I can make my way back. Spend a few more minutes listening to the woods, the birds, and the wind. Looking back, it was probably the most peaceful time I'd been in the woods for quite some time. The first thing that made a flag of the fuck run up in my head was that it got real quiet. Actually, quiet isn't probably the right word for it. I mean, silent. Not a single breeze blowing, not one bird chirping, nothing. Zip, zero. Suddenly, my nostrils are assaulted by this terrible odor. Imagine a skunk and a turkey vulture fornicating on top of a rotting carcass. Slowly, the odor changes from an overpowering stench to just death. Seriously, there's no other way to describe it. It just smelled like death. Kind of like wet moss and a mausoleum. Again, all this is to the soundtrack of nothing. Only the wood popping in my fire is. I actually think the lack of sound is what gave me the heebie-jeebies at first. Notice 2 lights out in the distance, up high, above the trees. Strange type of light too, like the kind of light you'd see on a fogged over glass. It's not really projecting anywhere or lighting up anything. Just kind of burning so you can see it and nothing more. Mind is running through possibilities of what it could be, already beginning to nope between the smell of death and the silence. Notice the lights are getting closer, and they're next to each other. Notice that they're only 20 or so feet above the trees. I'm already with my back flat against the cliff face at this point. I've already decided that whatever this thing is, I don't want anything to do with it. It was probably close to 70, 80 feet tall. With the head of a buck, those eyes with that dull light. The stench was overpowering at this point. As it moved, it didn't knock over the trees, just kind of meshed through them. I could see that the deer's head was mangy and it looked like stuff was leaking out of it. All I can say about the body is that it was big, as I had bigger problems when it stopped. It paused for only a moment parallel to my campfire. If it looked down it would have seen me. But it only paused, sniffed the air and then in the largest bounds I've ever seen, darted away, headed north. After making sure that I was indeed alive, I lit the fire in the ATV and tore off back for camp. I don't think I slept for 2 months after that. Okay, I normally don't post, just lurk, but whatever, here is my only spooky experience. Just some backdrop: I live in the Upper Peninsula by the Porcupine Mountains. On /K/ we have this thing called the S.T.A.L.K.E.R challenge, where we LARP as characters from S.T.A.L.K.E.R and go Innawoods for some fun. You normally go to abandoned places, but it's not like you need to if there are none available. Lucky for me, there is a bunch of old abandoned cabins in the park that not a lot of people know about. Well, that's all for background. Here's my story. Be me. 19-year-old S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Plan to go deep into the park to find new spots that have not been disturbed yet. Stalking buddy has work, so I decide to go alone. That was my first mistake. I bike all the way to the trailhead, as I have done countless times before. Stashed my bike in the regular spot so no one would steal it. Brought 3 24-hour rations and some vodka with me for food. Bring my trusty FAL because I don't fuck with bears, wolves, and especially mountain lions. Mountain lions were always my #1 fear when going in the woods. I have been stalked by them plenty of times and I know how deadly they are. Start my normal hike through the woods. The trailhead is a popular one, so I got a lot of odd looks, but whatever, I'm cheeky breeky. Hike for the first day at a breakneck pace to get as far as I possibly can. Hike is fucking beautiful. If any of you guys ever want a great place to hike, here it is. When I set up camp, I'm tired as fuck and don't even bother setting up a tent, just string up my tarp and pass out. Wake up next morning, pack my shit up and get ready to go further in. As I'm walking out, I notice some prints. It's a fucking lion. Mildly freak out as these prints are fresh and were about 20 feet from my exposed self was sleeping. I do another fast-paced hike, but this time I'm always scanning the trees and have my FAL at the ready. Never saw the cat, but I was a bit jumpy from then on. To be fair, I think that cat saved my life. I eventually make it to the more unexplored parts of the forest. No trail, so I decide to make my own. I felt like Lewis and Clark. After a day of roughing it through the woods, I finally made a camp in a clearing. Super cool area. Rocks made a circle around the clearing, so I think it used to be a man-made structure there. Abandoned area equals S.T.A.L.K.E.R area. I dig myself a fire pit and use some of the rocks from the circle to make sure I don't burn the forest down. After I built a nice fire and ate some of my rancid mrez, I decided to pull out my travel guitar and play a few lines. Thinking highly of myself, do the house stalker I must be right now. Then I, with an unholy smell. I think it must be one of the MRE wrappers that I had thrown in the fire at first, but the smell got progressively worse. I stop playing and decide to find out where this is coming from. Can't find the source, so I put on my gas mask to mask the smell. When I'm putting on the mask, I heard the most ear-splitting sound. Imagine someone scratching a chalkboard with 1,000 knives. Shivers all the way down my spine. Spooked as fuck. Grab my FAL. Fuck, forgot to mention I duct taped my flashlight to the handguard after the cat incident. I started to scan the tree line for anything that could have made that noise. Nothing moves. After scanning, I get a glimpse of flash. 2 fucking eyes. They were about eye level to me and I am 6 feet 3 inches. The second I put my light on them, they disappear. Mildly freaking out at this point. Fucker keeps coming in and out of the light, but I can't make out anything about it except the eyes. In my infinite wisdom, I decide that I need to get a better position. Take out my BFB 500G smoke bomb that I keep for a signal. Light that shit and under the smoke screen book it up the nearest tree. I am scanning everywhere now, trying to get another look at whatever the fuck was out there. Next time I say the eyes, I took a few shots at it. Never landed a shot. This went on for an hour, or at least it felt like that. until the eyes gathered more courage. It started to get closer and closer until it was at the base of my tree. I finally was able to get a better look. It looked like a giant lump of fur with no distinguishable features except its eyes. When the eyes looked up at me from the trunk, I unloaded straight at it. The loudest fucking roar I have ever heard. It sounded like it was in pain. Thing disappeared for about an hour and I started to think I was in the clear. Felt a flash of pain and my vision turned white. Then the next thing I knew, I was getting dragged down from a tangle of branches by forest rangers and local cops. I had a major head wound, dried blood matted my face and hair. Don't really remember much of what happened as I got evac'd out of the woods. Next thing I know, I'm in the hospital. Cops say I was a victim of a bear attack after I told them what happened. Funny enough, the path I took led me about 5 miles from a ranger outpost. They heard my 7.62 going off and called for backup. Never got any charges for a minor having an illegal substance. Cops and rangers were just happy I was okay except for a concussion. Small towns are the best. Gave me a long safety talk about staying on trails, going with a buddy, eating away from a campsite etc. I still go back to the forest almost every weekend, but now I always bring a friend and a lot more ammunition. Mom marries stepdad, move into really big, nice house. Kinda out from civilization, big woods in the backyard. Room on the top floor, window looking out over backyard. House, big hill, brush, tree line, small patch of farmland, forest. Just sat around. Mom wanted me to get a hobby. Pretty young, around 10, get a telescope for B-Day. Pop out screen to window because can't see shit through it. Just glass now, use telescope. My random stars.yo. One night, see some shit moving around. Can usually tell if it's an airplane, definitely not a fucking plane. Think it might be a heli. Oh well. Brush it off. A month later. Astronomy is fucking boring. Start looking at wildlife in the woods cause telescope is see far. See coyotes, rabbits, etc. One night I can't sleep. See something glowing from deep in the woods. House is weirdly tall, when I think back, and I can see to the edge of the forest over the first tree line. Can't see where the glow is coming from, but I see stuff moving. Pale bodies between the trees. Nope, back into my bunk bed after shutting window. Eventually sleep for a while. Wake up around 3. Go to bathroom, drink some water from the faucet. Head out to the top of the stairs, look out over living room. Hear movement on wood floors. Had a dog, or possibly stepdad or mom. Their room is closed. Steps too light to be stepdad. Too heavy to be mom, really tiny. Definitely not the fucking dog. Start heading downstairs. No car in driveway, not my sis. Dog not on couch, must be in parents' room. Hear movement in kitchen. There's a bell on the back door, attached to kitchen, for the dog to hit when it needs to go out. Hear the bell. Hear it again. Again. Door shuts. Head into kitchen, then back door, see pale things just going over the hill. Run back upstairs. Open window. They're running across farmland. Innawoods. Light goes dark. Keep watching until sun up. Fall asleep after a while. Next day. Nothing was missing, not even food. Still see shit in the woods sometimes. I'm not gonna Greentext, but I'll tell you about the time I had some shady people block me on a bridge out in the middle of nowhere. I was driving with my girlfriend on an old logging road. We were supposed to meet up with a camping group that had headed out earlier in the day. We couldn't head out until later, and that led to us driving there in the dark. We got on an old logging road, headed up the way we were supposed to go, but it was a 40+ minute drive up into the mountains. Ahead of us, there was a pickup truck, you could just barely see the tail lights, and we kept our distance. Eventually we get to a bridge. It was a one-lane bridge that was probably 90 feet long. As we approach, the lights reflected off their tail lights and plate, and we could see they'd stopped on the bridge, no lights on, the truck was dark and nobody was moving inside. After maybe 30 seconds of waiting at the bridge entrance, the truck door opened. Out comes the passenger. A somewhat normal-looking rural type. But he comes back to the car, and doesn't say anything. I roll down my window and ask if there's a problem. He says, yeah, we're broken down. I said okay, and he went back to the truck. We're in the middle of nowhere, 30 to 40 minutes into the mountains on an old, rarely used logging road. Sitting there, waiting for these guys to move. The guy goes back to the truck and just gets in. They're not out front with the hood open. They just continue to sit there. We turned out our headlights and just waited. Eventually I decide to get out and walk up to the truck and ask if they need some help. But as I get out, both of their doors open. There were 3 guys in the truck. They all 3 get out and start walking back at me. I was no guns at this point, FYI. I ask if they'd mind just pushing the truck off the bridge so we can pass. They said they're working on it, and it'll only be a few minutes. Then one of them goes back towards my car, where my girlfriend was sitting. The other 2 are trying to talk to me, as I realize the third guy is walking back towards my girlfriend in the truck. I just turn and walk back behind him. Maybe 20 feet behind him. The other guys seem like they're trying to keep my attention. I ignore them and walk back anyway. When I get there, the guy had already done a circle around my car, seeming to be looking at what's in there. I asked him what he's doing, and he didn't say anything. So I asked what's going on here? And he just mutters something about whether my car's narrow enough to pass. This was bullshit, since the bridge was barely wide enough for their truck. You could barely get a motorcycle past them. Then he walks back up to the truck. I open the door and tell my girlfriend we're getting out of here. I don't say anything else. I just get in, turn the car on, do a 5-point turnaround, and start heading back down the road. As we're going, I see the truck's lights go on, and the red tail lights as they get the truck moving. They're crossing the bridge finally. I stop, we discuss going back over the bridge now that the guys have moved their truck. We turn out the lights and wait a minute to see that they're continuing down the logging road. When they're out of sight, I turn the car around, and head back to the bridge. As we're slowly crossing this one-lane bridge, my headlights catch the glint of the truck coming back toward us. No headlights, just driving slowly toward the bridge. I gas it, trying to get across the bridge before they can block it again. I make it to the mouth of the entrance just as their truck is approaching the bridge, lights still off. 3 guys in the truck. They're in the center of the road, and not making any effort to pull right and make room. But I'm able to get by them. The truck stops as we pass, and the tail lights go off. About 10 minutes later we get to the camp, and the truck drives by, lights off, slowly. Luckily 2 of the guys at the camp had brought pistols. We tell them what happened, and the 3 guys go out to the road. The truck never came back. The end. In college 15 years ago. Local cemetery that's about 30 minutes away from town. It's an old pioneer cemetery and all the graves are ancient. I'd go there with friends to do ghost hunting. It was mostly just fun to be in the woods. The cemetery was about 20 minutes drive from anywhere. In the dark with friends, hear some rustling to our rear. We didn't bring flashlights. Out comes 2 people in masks, one has an axe. They approach us. The girls are scared and start screaming. I immediately recognize it as a prank. They wanted to spook us. I just say, hey guys, don't scare people like that. They take off their masks and laugh about how much the girls screamed. We sit around shooting the shit for a few minutes, and they tell us about a cabin a short way away. We decide to go with them to check it out. They're weird people for sure. But they're just the local trailer trash, harmless dopes. We follow them for about 5 minutes. One of them starts futzing with his flashlight, keeping the switch half connected, trying to make it look like it's burning out. Claims his light has burned out. We know it's bullshit. We get to the cabin. Take a few pictures. It's an old log cabin, dilapidated and rotting. They go inside and we can hear whispering. Hey, come here guys, check this out. Seriously, guys, you gotta see this. It's obvious they're trying to bait us into the cabin. We all agree. Decide to hightail it out of there. I still don't know what they were trying to achieve with the whole fake flashlight failure, and getting us to come inside. They were ICP fans. You know the kind. You can't trust them to not do something retarded. They weren't spooky people, but they were just unpredictable garbage humans, so when we realized they were lying to us and trying to coax us into an old dark cabin, we figured it was better to just go. This is more of a standard pedo story, I think, but it was always in the woods. This might just be scary to me for obvious reasons, but here you go. 10 years old. Live in a populated suburban area. My house is on the edge of town on the top of a hill. The backyard merges into the woods, which go on for miles. I spend countless hours exploring the woods. Usually with my best friend, rarely alone. It's thick brush, the trails are pathetic and narrow. Virtually never encounter anyone on them. Just the odd group of teenagers drinking beer and smoking every now and again. Hunting isn't permitted, nobody walks their dog there, nobody hikes it. I walk through a small portion of it every day after school. It's steep and terribly difficult to walk up, but it's much faster than taking the road. Usually my friend is with me then as well. We do this every school day unless he can't come over for whatever reason. Our main activity is going to an abandoned hunter's blind. It's a large wooden structure with multiple levels. We repair it for ages, which consists of us nailing boards over the cracks in the side. It's now our clubhouse. We hide my friend's porno mags, cigarettes, and fireworks in the base, under a large board. Show our work to a third friend, who is very impressed. We can barely tear him away from the Playboys when we leave. About a month and a half later, my main friend and I are walking home from school as per usual. We're at the top of the hill and very close to my house. I would be able to see it if not for the brush. A gigantic fat man appears wobbling down the trail in a massive gray shirt and sweatpants. Have never seen someone so large. He's 6 feet 4 inches or so and easily 300 pounds. He's moving very slowly, swaying back and forth with his weight. Coming from the direction of my house. He's hunched over and looking almost completely at the ground as he walks. He only notices us when we're about 30 feet away. His head instantly perks up, he stands up straight, and his eyes light up. He says hey ya. As we come up to pass him, as if we were old friends. We both mutter something like hey man. He's not blocking our path but he has stopped and clearly wants to chat. So what are you two up to? I respond just walking home. Hey, that's cool, I'm right around here too. Where do you guys live? My friend starts telling the guy where he lives, practically gives his address. He doesn't seem terribly interested. He's looking at me the entire time. So I guess you live up here then? Yeah, right over there and point toward the neighborhood, but away from my house. Cool, cool, I just moved up here from PA. I say something along the lines of cool dude, we'll see you around then. He has a shocked, disappointed look on his face. Kind of face that says what the fuck, dude. Seriously? I start walking and my friend quickly follows me. Sorry guys, I knew I was an idiot for not typing it all up first and then posting. I'm in a really weird state of mind right now. Probably why I'm thinking about all this. The weirdness comes in next post. 2 weeks later, my friend and I head over to our clubhouse. We open up our little hidden compartment and everything is gone. Someone stole the Playboys, the fireworks, and the cigarettes. They even took the fucking matches. We freaked the fuck out and immediately agree that it was our third friend. He's the only person who we showed the place to. Maybe he told some older kids and they stole it? No, dude, he just stole it all for himself. He's an asshole. We confront our third friend about it the next day at school. He's fucking perplexed and denies it up and down. Says we must have been seen by some other kids going there. We accept his answer but are still very suspicious. Head down to our clubhouse about a week later. Make a point of creeping up on the place to catch any intruders. There's of course nobody there. We walk onto the first floor with our tools for more repairs. There's a thick piece of paper on the floor with a rock on top of it. It's folded in half. We look at each other thinking motherfuckers. I'm assuming the note is from older kids who stole our stuff. Expecting a big fuck you, thanks for the cigs. I open it up. It says hey blondie, looking for these? With a sideways smiley face. We both start scanning the area with our eyes. Nobody is around. That was Jerry, dude, my friend says. Jerry is just some scary high schooler with no connection to us or the event. My friend is a moron. I really don't think so. Maybe some old hunter guys still come here. We agree that whatever it is, we should abandon the site. A week or so passes and I'm walking through town alone at about 11 p.m. Because my parents gave me zero boundaries. The town is almost totally empty as usual. From a distance I see the man. He's sitting on the steps of one of our many churches. He sees me right away. I don't want to hurt his feelings by crossing the road. Hey man. Look who it is. I say hey and continue my brisk pace. Just as I pass him he says stop. His voice and face have completely changed and I'm thoroughly intimidated. I stop. I'm directly in front of him but about 10 feet away. I'm almost in the road. Hey man, talk to me for a second, what's the rush? I'm going to meet a friend. At this time of night? How old are you? Tell him I'm 16 even though I'm 11 at this point. Your hair looks almost white. Just a little blonde Aryan model boy, huh? Kid who looks like you must have a little girlfriend. Tell him that I actually don't. He asks me if I like films. He says I'm just a huge movie buff, I must have a million tapes back at my house. You wanna come over and watch something? My bullshit friendly demeanor completely falls apart. He sees that I'm fucking terrified and I'm not giving an answer. He says, in the most intimate and serious way imaginable. You know, I would never hurt you. We're both lonely people. I say I know because I'm high on adrenaline. He starts rambling on about how we're both night people. How we're different from everyone else. I slowly turn my back and walk away for 10 steps and then sprint. I have had many encounters with him over the years since then. He lives in a house with a bunch of degenerates in the middle of town I think. Every conversation is like that last one, with the same context. He likes to come up to me in public and talk to me as if we're old pals. I haven't seen him for a year or so though. And just a small aside, the creepiest encounter I had with him was when I was 14. There's this huge festival held near my town every year. It packs the streets full of drunk people. He saw me there and waddled his way through the crowd. When he got to me he had a huge smirk on his face and then he launched into what seemed like a prepared speech. Years later when I saw the film Taxi Driver I realized that he had lifted it almost word for word. It's what Travis says to Betsy when he courts her. https://www.youtube.com/watch?? V=VKE_B4JMF5Q. It starts right around 1:20, the bullshit about being a lonely person.
I had a creepy experience last summer, but it's nothing supernatural. It was during a week-long family reunion/vacation, so I'll trim it down the best I can. Visiting family in eastern Texas for a 4th of July party/family reunion. Felt obligated to go because the organizers hinted that several of the elder family members might not be around next time. We arrive at my aunt's house and try to unwind. Immediate regret when I realize how many shitty kids are around. Socialize up into the early AM hours out of courtesy, but we leave early the next morning. Only guy my age I knew in the area was my cousin Jake, and he was generally a cool guy. He lived 30 minutes out, so I sent him a FB message and asked if it was alright to come over. He says sure, and we arrive a little bit later. Do the usual introductions and shit. I meet his kids, who were 1 and 3 at the time. Yada yada, nothing important happens, but he is understanding about how shitty our family can be. He offers to take us 2 and his son camping. My kid was ecstatic, so I couldn't say anything besides yes. We hang out a bit more that day and head out the next morning. Continuing. I don't know where the text limit stands right now. Not pre-typed, so patience please. Arrive at the campsite and it's nothing special. Check-in area connected to a few dirt paths, most of which were hiking trails. The 4 of us park and hike for probably 30 to 45 minutes until we find a decent spot. I'm not outdoorsy, so take that as you will. We start setting up camp and my kid is already bitching about the heat. Just going to refer to him as C for the sake of understanding. Tell C that he can change into something more comfortable, and he apparently takes it as, go naked if you want. Feign embarrassment, but Jake says it's nothing he hasn't seen before, so I just say fuck it. A whole 10 minutes passes after the tent is set up and C complains that he is bored. Jake's kid is collecting sticks and rocks for whatever reason, so we leave them behind and go explore the woods on our own. Really fucking shitty experience, so I don't know why people enjoy it. Fallen trees and branches all over the place, so you get stabbed by branches every 5 feet. We hadn't made it far when I saw a pink backpack resting against a tree. Just a generic backpack, but it had the name Katie written on the top in black marker. Innocent part of me just assumes someone lost it, but we find some other sketchy shit around the area. Blow up mattress that looked heavily patched. At least 2 more backpacks. One was Spider-Man themed. What looked like heavily worn work clothing. Construction, oil fields? Whoever wore them, they looked really beat up. The concept of a crazy man living in the woods was enough for me to nope out of there. Kid was also naked from the knees up, and you can imagine what I feared. We zigzag until we get back to the campsite, and I tell Jake that I think someone is living out here. He looks concerned but still thinks he needs to go check it out himself. He goes off in the general direction and leaves me with his kid. Make C get dressed and finish packing our shit before Jake gets back. Jake returns and says he found some clothes strewn around, but not the mattress. I just gave him a vague direction to go, so I wasn't surprised. He acts like it isn't a huge deal but still agrees to leave just in case. Jake talks to the park ranger before we leave, and I assume warns him about some guy possibly doing obscene things out there. Still feel uncomfortable even driving through densely wooded areas today. Nothing came up from what we saw. The park implemented some new policies that I believe are a response to it, but I don't think you can stop crazy. Sorry that it wasn't super exciting. Just my experience. C does do some creepy shit on his own, but he wasn't very interesting that day. True story. Me and my now ex-girlfriend take a lot of mushrooms. We decide to go to the woods. In the middle of nowhere. At night. With no torch. What could possibly go wrong? It's so dark we can barely see. I bring a stick for support because mushrooms make you wobbly. It's creepy in the woods at night anyway, but we are on fucking loads of shrooms. The dark shapes of trees seem to move, or was that really movement? I tell myself it was just the mushrooms, or maybe a sheep or a cow escaped from a nearby field. We've found dead sheep in the woods before. Staring into the trees is creepy as fuck. Everything looks like it's shifting and moving. Some trees look like dark figures. Some seem to walk. Small trees look like Slenderman. Small dark shapes occasionally dart between shadows. We're both kinda scared, but we tell ourselves it's just the mushrooms, it's just the woods, no one else comes out here this late at night. We're deep in the woods now. We cross a familiar bridge across a small river. We take the path along the side of the river. On the left is a 6-foot drop to the river. On the right is sheer cliff face or dense thicket on a very steep hillside. The only possible paths are back the way we came or forwards along the path. We can only see about 15 feet in front of us. As we get about 200 feet down this path, I see something ahead of us. Looks vaguely like a person. I stop my XGF and ask if she can see it too, to see if it's just the mushrooms, to see if it's just a hallucination. But she says spoiler lit, she can see it too / spoiler lit. Shitting myself slightly now. We move a little closer. To me the figure looks like a man in pale trousers and a pale hoodie, hunched over with his back to us, facing about 2 o'clock from our perspective, taking a piss at the side of the path. I'm worried he's a drunk who'll be less than friendly. To my XGF the figure looked like a skeletal man, in robe with a hood, like a pale Grim Reaper, hunched over with his back to us in the same way. I shout hey. The figure doesn't move or respond. I shout hey, you alright? The figure doesn't move or respond. I'm super creeped out now. This weird guy is all hunched up at the side of the path like he's hiding from something, but he won't respond to us. Is he retarded? Does he think he's hidden enough that we can't see him? Why would he be hiding? Unless he had malicious intentions. Was he trying to do something to us? Or maybe he's hiding from something other than us. I hit the ground with my stick between us and shout hey again, to try and show that I'm going to fight back if he tries anything weird. He doesn't move or respond. Fight turns to flight. We run. Feel utter terror like nothing before. Because you can't fucking run on loads of shrooms. The woods are still alive and shadowy Slendermen still stalk the trees. We're stumbling back along the path as fast as we can. Where's the bridge? Where's the fucking bridge? We're not on the path. We should have passed it. We're lost in the woods. I see a dark shape move too near to us. My ex is panicked. We don't know where we are. She grabs my hand and drags me deeper into the woods. We're not on a path. We're struggling through bushes and undergrowth. We're wading through mud and bogs. We're trying to run, but there's too many plants in the way and we're so fucking high we can barely walk on solid ground as it is. I see a light through the trees. I think I know where we are. I grab my ex and pull her the way I think we should go. Still kinda lost. Still not on a path. We go a little further and finally, we find the path. We walk as fast as we can towards what I am hoping is the way out of the woods. Ahead of us I'm seeing dark figures moving in the tree line. Things that look like people standing on the horizon. We walk closer to them. Then I know where we are. The path out. It's about 100 feet to 200 feet long. Feels like a mile. I glance back into the woods. See something move. Walking faster. Get out, get out, get out, get out. Run, 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 run. The gate. We're free. We're out. Back at the village. The next day we went back in the daytime to see what the fuck was on the path by the river, and a huge chunk of rock from the cliff had collapsed right where we saw the hooded figure. Is that what we saw? A chunk of rock in the dark? Or did the figure cause the collapse?
And they take separate roads.